Hollywood has always been a place of bright lights and fragile hearts, but few stars ever shone quite like Diane Keaton. She was quirky, yet graceful, guarded, yet endlessly fascinating, a woman who managed to be both a mystery and a mirror of her times. For decades, she charmed audiences with her wit, warmth, and unapologetic individuality. But behind that radiant smile and signature turtleneck, Keaton carried secrets so deeply personal that even those closest to her never fully understood the woman behind the legend. And now, with her passing, the truth has begun to surface, truths that will change the way we remember her forever. These aren't just stories about a Hollywood star. They are revelations about a complex, private soul who lived on her own terms, loved deeply but quietly, and protected her heart with a brilliance that few could ever see. That if this kind of story touches your heart, if you're someone who cares about truth, responsibility, and speaking up for the voiceless, please like this video, subscribe to our channel, and share it with someone who should hear it. Let's get started. Let's uncover the 10 most powerful and shocking secrets Diane Keaton took to her grave, each one revealing a side of her life we never truly knew. Number 10. The secret behind her iconic style. Diane Keaton's wardrobe became her armor. The suits, the hats, the vests, the androgynous layers, they weren't just fashion statements. They were shields. Many thought it was a quirky fashion choice or an artistic flair that matched her free-spirited roles. But in truth, it was something far more personal. Keaton once confessed in her private journals that her distinct style was born out of deep insecurity. From her teenage years, she struggled with an intense need to hide her body, often masking her discomfort with humor and oversized clothing. To the public, she was trendsetting, a symbol of female independence. But to Diane, those clothes were protection. They allowed her to control what the world saw, to present a version of herself that was confident and unbothered, even when she wasn't. Her fashion was never vanity. It was vulnerability disguised as confidence. Number 9. Her complicated relationship with fame. Few people could handle the blinding intensity of Hollywood fame the way Diane did by running from it. Unlike many of her peers, she never seemed to chase stardom. Even after her Oscar win for Annie Hall, she retreated into privacy rather than reveling in the spotlight. According to friends, she often expressed discomfort with attention, once saying, "Fame is like being in a room where everyone's looking at you, and you just want to find the exit." Behind closed doors, she struggled with anxiety over the expectations that came with being Diane Keaton. Her public persona, the charming, offbeat woman who made everyone laugh, sometimes felt like a performance she couldn't step out of. To cope, she immersed herself in art, photography, and architecture, pursuits that grounded her when Hollywood felt too loud. She didn't want to be idolized, she wanted to be understood. And perhaps that's what fame stole from her most, the chance to be seen for who she truly was. Number 8. The love that never let her go. Everyone remembers the romances Al Pacino, Warren Beatty, Woody Allen, names that lit up tabloid headlines and defined an era. But there was one love that Diane never got over, one that shaped the rest of her life. It wasn't a grand Hollywood romance. It was quiet, imperfect, and hidden, a relationship that ended long before the cameras knew her name. He wasn't famous. He was someone she loved when she was still discovering herself. Their breakup, by all accounts, shattered her. Though she rarely spoke of him publicly, her friends noticed she compared every relationship after him to that first, pure connection. It was the standard no one could ever live up to. Even in her journals, years later, she wrote cryptically, "He's still the one I see when I close my eyes." Maybe that's why she never married. Maybe she was waiting for a love that was lost long ago, a love that stayed alive only in memory. Number 7. Her quiet struggle with eating disorders. For a woman who seemed so self-assured, Diane battled an inner storm for much of her early life, one she kept hidden for decades. In her memoir, she later revealed she suffered from bulimia during her 20s at the height of her career's ascent. But what she never publicly discussed was how long that battle lasted, well into her 30s and beyond. She masked it with humor and ambition, convincing the world she was fine. But friends would later recall how perfectionism haunted her, how she would obsess over small details, her appearance, and her performances. The disorder was not just about food, it was about control. In a world where everything about her was judged, her face, her voice, her personality, the act of controlling what she consumed became her silent rebellion. And yet, she overcame it with the same quiet resilience she carried throughout her life, not with dramatic confessions, but with steady healing, art, and time. Number 6, the secret diary she left behind. In the final years of her life, Diane began keeping a series of private journals, thousands of handwritten pages filled with reflections, regrets, and the rawest parts of herself. Family members later discovered that she had been writing almost daily for over 40 years. These journals weren't meant for publication. They were letters to her future self, a place where she could be entirely honest without fear of judgment. According to those who have read excerpts, the pages reveal a woman who constantly questioned herself. She wrote about loneliness, aging, and the strange reality of being adored, but never fully known. One haunting line, now circulating among those who knew her, read, "I made everyone laugh, but I was often crying inside." Those words encapsulate the Diane few ever saw, not the radiant actress on screen, but the human being behind the smile. Number 5, her lifelong fear of losing her memory. In interviews later in life, Diane often joked about forgetfulness, but behind those jokes was a deep and genuine fear, the fear of dementia. Her mother had suffered from Alzheimer's, and Diane watched helplessly as the woman who had once been her rock slowly disappeared into the fog of memory loss. It haunted her for decades. Friends say she became obsessed with preserving her memories through journals, scrapbooks, and photography. Her house was filled with labeled boxes of letters, photographs, and mementos. Every item told a story, a fragment of a life she refused to let time erase. She once told a friend, "If my memory goes, everything goes. My story, my work, my love, all gone." Perhaps that's why she chronicled her life so meticulously. Every word, every note, was her way of fighting the one thing she couldn't control, forgetting herself. Number 4, the motherhood secret. In one of her most private revelations, Diane opened up about becoming a mother later in life, but few know the full truth. When she adopted her 2 children in her 50s, many saw it as an act of courage, a woman reclaiming motherhood on her own terms. But what she never revealed publicly was how long she had longed for that role. Letters found among her belongings showed she had tried for years to conceive and later considered adoption multiple times before finally taking the leap. The fear of being alone, coupled with her busy career, had always made her hesitate. When she finally became a mother, it transformed her. Friends say her home, once quiet and filled with art, became noisy, warm, and full of laughter. She told one confidant, "For the first time, I felt needed, not for what I could do, but for who I am." Motherhood was not her second act, it was her redemption. Number 3, the painful distance with her father. Throughout her life, Diane often spoke lovingly of her mother, but rarely of her father. And there was a reason for that silence. Her father, Jack Keaton, was a strict, traditional man who struggled to understand his daughter's unconventional spirit. Their relationship was polite, but distant, often marked by quiet disapproval rather than open affection. As Diane pursued acting, her father disapproved, believing it to be an unstable and frivolous path. It wasn't until years later, after The Godfather and Annie Hall, that he expressed pride. But by then, the distance had already settled in. In her later writings, Diane expressed regret for never fully reconciling with him before his death. She wrote, "I wish he'd known that I wasn't rebelling against him. I was just trying to find myself." It's one of the few emotional wounds that never healed, a silence that lingered in her life long after he was gone. Number 2, her lost friendship with Woody Allen. For decades, Diane Keaton and Woody Allen were inseparable, partners in art and kindred souls in comedy. But few knew how their friendship truly ended. When Allen became embroiled in controversy, Diane's loyalty was tested like never before. Privately, she wrestled with guilt and grief, torn between her moral compass and her memories of the man who helped shape her career. Letters and personal notes revealed that she ultimately chose to distance herself, quietly without public declaration but firmly. She stopped returning calls, avoided events, and refused to discuss him in interviews. It was a heartbreaking decision for her. As one friend said, losing him was like losing a part of her youth, her history, her laughter. And yet it was an act of integrity. Diane had built her career on being true to herself, and when it mattered most, she stayed that way. Number 1, the secret she took to her grave. Perhaps the most poignant revelation comes not from her films, her fame, or her romances, but from her deepest truth, the one she never shared publicly. Diane Keaton struggled all her life with a profound sense of loneliness. Despite her success, her family, and her laughter, she often felt that she was an observer in her own life, watching, reflecting, but rarely letting anyone all the way in. In her final writings, she expressed it plainly. I've had a beautiful life, but I've always been a little bit on the outside looking in. It's a statement that perfectly captures who she was, a woman who belonged everywhere and nowhere, who gave the world her warmth but kept her truest self tucked away behind wit and style. Her passing isn't just the loss of a beloved actress, it's the closing of a story written in silence, humor, and endless introspection.